Alright, so this should be the last part where we're actually modeling, and then we'll get on to the texturing, which will just be UV mapping using a UVW mapping modifier and just applying individual textures, not actually unwrapping and so on and so forth. Most of this is just going to be the door and some steps, and then I'll start off, well then I'll show you smoothing groups, but as you can see the roof kind of looks like it sort of blends together and that doesn't look quite right. So let's get into it, because I'm sure people don't really want to listen to me talk. So we'll do this tube business again, and we now know to rotate it along the z-axis 45, get out of editable poly and rotate that way 90. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to stick it, this is the open area here, and so we're going to stick the door about here. And it's going to be a fairly wide door, because I don't have any justification, it's just going to be like that. Now, that's going to be our door frame. In fact, we probably want the whole frame to be a bit wider and then flatter. We'll leave it be. So bring that in, and we'll just want that to stick out. And in fact, we don't actually want it to come through the floor at all. So we'll also get rid of that in the optimization part, which will come before the texturing. So we've got a door frame, and now what we're going to do is just a simple door. And then part of that, what we can do is we hide unselected. Now, in fact, we could just do a plane. And the plane could be 1 by 1. And I don't actually need to convert to noble poly, but it seems I did. So bring that out, and that's our door. In fact, what a door needs is a door handle. So we'll grab a cylinder, and 8 sides is usually enough. We'll rotate it this, and we'll convert to editable poly. First what we'll do is we'll put it about where we want it to be. And we'll grab the back end, and we shall inset. In fact, what we'll do is we will extrude and scale. And we'll grab these verts and wrong selection type. Grab these verts, move it forward just a little bit, that way. And we'll grab this polygon and we'll extrude a little bit. Now we'll consider that our door done. In fact, that whole doorknob needs to be smaller. In fact, I don't even like that type of doorknob. So what we're going to do is going to create a box. I'm going to give it a bunch of height segments. 5 should be enough. What we're going to do is, well, for one, that needs to be less thick. Front. Once we're about here, now what we're going to do is scale these verts in a little bit, and then move these two that way. And so now we've got a little bit of a bend already happening. This comes out, scales up. So, you know, there's our door handle. It's fairly simple, but I am a simple person. scale really isn't an issue right now because this is just an educational type thing, but I seem to be getting a little bit anal about it. Alright, we'll leave it be. So now, that's the door. It's the door, we've got windows, now we need some steps. Steps will be really basic, we'll just do some blocks. Probably don't need to stick out that much. And it can even intersect with the house itself, that's fine. And in fact, what we'll do is we'll grab this and we'll put the Z position to 0, as it should be. Now, one more thing what I'm going to do is, with this bottom line, there's no actual bottom, which is fine, but what we're actually going to do is, this is where the ground level is, basically, and what we're going to do is, because if you're on bumpy terrain, that's going to be a problem with a perfectly flat bottom. So what we're going to do is just going to grab that and bring it down a little bit. So the majority of this is actually going to be under the ground, you know, like so. But if the ground is a little bit lower or slanted or something, it doesn't ruin anything. All you have to do is worry about where the steps are, which will in fact will make those a bit taller as well. Alright, I had to pause it there for a second, but as I was saying, if you make this part here lower, then it can go in the ground and you don't have, you know, you can't see under the house where there isn't actually any geometry. Not only is that better for, well, basically I say it's better because you're not actually going to be looking under the house, and now we're making it so you can't see under the house at all, and so that will help with keep the poly count down as well. So what we're actually doing now is just the steps, so just grab that, move it across, and we'll just rotate that, scale it a little bit just to make sure it's not sticking out or anything. Then we'll scale that down. And again, we'll scale that down. Now at some point that'll probably be under the floor, but whatever. So that looks about right. And now we're pretty much done. So I guess I'll move on to showing you smoothing groups. Because if we select all the roof here and we go down to the smoothing groups, which appear to be collapsed, we'll just bring this whole thing out. Smoothing groups, what we'll do is we'll clear all, and then without smoothing groups you can clearly see, take that back in again. Alright, so there's the smoothing groups. Now without that you can clearly see where each line is, and it's very sort of jagged, I guess. But what we're going to do is, with all of these, you can auto smooth, and actually it's done quite nicely, but what was happening before was everything's one smoothing group and everything sort of blends together. It really doesn't look that nice. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select certain parts and auto smooth bit by bit. And this way it doesn't look horribly jagged. In fact, part of it does, but part of it doesn't. Auto smooth that. In fact, it looks exactly the same without smoothing groups, so that's a bad example, but we'll live with it. That looks curved with smoothing groups, and without, it looks better. So anyway, that's as basic as we can get with smoothing groups. Next 9 minutes, we'll stop here and we'll do the next tutorial about optimization and then start on the UV mapping.